There are some mysteries in history that never made it into textbooks, yet they haunt anyone who has ever heard of them. Like the thunder of anti-aircraft fire echoing through the night skies over Los Angeles, aimed at an enemy no one ever saw. Like Hitler's imposing globe of power that vanished without a trace. And like the 17 names penciled on a fragile piece of paper inside a death camp whose identities remain unknown to this day. In this video, we'll explore the unexplained enigmas of World War II, stories that defy answers and continue to stir questions long after the last shot was fired. So fasten your seatbelt as we dive into today's mystery. But first, you'll have incredible luck if you like and subscribe before this video ends. Hitler's globe, a symbol of power and ambition. In the 1930s, as Nazi Germany began expanding its influence across Europe, a small yet deeply symbolic object appeared in Adolf Hitler's private office. It was a massive globe known as the Columbus Globe for state and industry leaders, manufactured by the Columbus factory in Berlin. Only 2 original versions of this globe were ever produced. One was presented to the Nazi Party, and the other was placed in Hitler's personal study. On this globe, the borders of the world had already been redrawn according to the vision of the German dictator, including Austria, the Sudetenland of Czechoslovakia, and parts of Poland, all of which were considered territory of the new empire under the 1939 agreement with the Soviet Union. After the war ended, the exact whereabouts of the original globe became a mystery. Some versions were displayed in museums, others were destroyed by Allied or Soviet soldiers in a fit of rage. One story claims that an American soldier named John Barsamian brought the globe back to the US from Hitler's mountain retreat and later sold it at auction for tens of thousands of dollars. However, some researchers believe the real globe never left Europe. According to German historian Wolfram Pobans, the original may have belonged to Joachim von Ribbentrop, Germany's foreign minister at the time. If that's the case, it could now be stored in a Russian archive, never made public. Today, many replicas of the globe still exist, but no one can confirm which, if any, is the true original. Still, the symbol endures, serving as a haunting reminder that there once was a man who believed he could rule the entire world. And that globe was the physical embodiment of that ambition. The Battle of Los Angeles. In late 1941, just weeks after the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States formally entered World War II. At that time, the American public wasn't only worried about the war raging across the ocean, they feared that the homeland itself might become the next target. On the West Coast, the region closest to the Pacific, growing concern about a potential Japanese assault became increasingly palpable. Within less than 3 months of the Pearl Harbor attack, Japanese submarines had surfaced multiple times off the coast and launched assaults on several American vessels. Rumors began to spread rapidly through coastal cities. Local authorities issued blackout orders at night to avoid detection by enemy forces. Citizens were instructed on how to respond to air raids. People lived in a constant state of readiness for the worst. Then, on the night of February 24, 1942, that fear erupted into full-blown chaos. The Office of Naval Intelligence had issued a warning that an attack on California could occur within the next 10 hours. By 2:25 a.m., air raid sirens blared across Los Angeles County. The entire city was plunged into an emergency blackout. In the thick of darkness, soldiers from the 37th Coast Artillery Brigade began firing anti-aircraft shells into the night sky. Over 1,400 rounds were launched, targeting what they believed were enemy aircraft invading American airspace. The roar of the guns, the flashing lights, and the widespread confusion made it feel as though the city was truly under siege. But after hours of sustained tension, no enemy aircraft were ever found. There was no wreckage, no confirmed attacks. The following morning, Secretary of the Navy Frank Knox announced that it had all been a false alarm. Some experts suggested the panic may have been triggered by weather balloons, misidentified amid poor visibility and extreme psychological stress. However, despite the absence of any real enemy, the incident had real and deadly consequences. 6 people lost their lives, 3 due to heart attacks, and 3 others in traffic accidents that occurred amid the chaos. To this day, many still recall this event as one of the clearest examples of how fear can overpower logic. Who betrayed Anne Frank? In the darkness of World War II, amid the relentless Nazi persecution and the constant fear haunting Jewish families across Europe, a 13-year-old girl named Anne Frank began recording her thoughts in a diary while hiding with her family in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Like thousands of other Jews, the Frank family was forced into hiding after Nazi Germany occupied the country. They concealed themselves behind a secret wall in the building where Otto Frank, Anne's father, had once worked. For 2 years, they lived in silence, and during that time, Anne documented everything: her fear, her dreams, her beliefs, and even her hopes. But on the morning of August 4th, 1944, everything came to an abrupt end. A German police unit led by Officer Karl Silberbauer raided their hiding place. Everyone was arrested and later deported to concentration camps. Anne Frank never left the camp. She died at Bergen-Belsen in early 1945, just weeks before the war ended. Of the 8 people arrested together, only Otto Frank survived. After the war, Otto edited and published his daughter's diary under the title, The Diary of a Young Girl. The book became one of the most influential works of the 20th century, turning Anne Frank into a global symbol of genocide and stolen childhood. And yet, to this day, one haunting question remains unanswered: who betrayed them? Over the decades, countless theories have been proposed. Some have suspected a curious neighbor, a disgruntled former employee, or someone inside the building who informed the Gestapo in exchange for a reward or food ration stamps. The speculation is vast, but hard evidence is non-existent. In 2016, an independent team of investigators, including former FBI agents and historians, launched a new inquiry. They didn't just re-examine old records, they used modern technology to look for connections that had never been uncovered before. One theory that emerged was that the arrest may not have come from personal betrayal, but rather as a consequence of a crackdown on an underground group illegally distributing food ration coupons, leading, unintentionally, to the discovery of the Franks' hiding place. In 2018, a controversial book proposed another theory, that a Jewish woman who had once cooperated with the Nazis had been the informant, though she too was later arrested and convicted after the war. Still, no official conclusion has ever been reached. Every piece of evidence remains speculative. The people involved are either long deceased or left no clear record behind. And so, the story of Anne Frank remains not only a reminder of the pain of war, but also a symbol of those historical mysteries that may never receive a definitive answer. Flight 19 vanished in the Bermuda Triangle. On the afternoon of December 5, 1945, just months after the end of World War II, a squadron of 5 U.S. Navy TBM Avenger torpedo bombers took off from the Fort Lauderdale Naval Air Station in Florida. Their mission was simple: a routine training flight over the Atlantic, following a triangular route before returning to base. But what no one could have predicted was that they would never come back. Just hours after departure, radio transmissions from the flight crew began to grow erratic and confusing. Lieutenant Charles Taylor, who was leading the group, reported that the navigational instruments were malfunctioning. They had lost their sense of direction and believed they might have drifted off course beyond the designated training area. Despite the ground control station's efforts to guide them back, the signals continued to weaken until they disappeared altogether. Immediately, the U.S. Navy dispatched a seaplane carrying 13 crew members to search for Flight 19. But in a stunning twist, the rescue aircraft itself vanished shortly after takeoff. In total, 6 aircraft and 27 men disappeared under mysterious circumstances, without a single trace of wreckage or distress signal. All search efforts over the following weeks turned up nothing. The disappearance quickly became one of the greatest aviation mysteries in American history, and as the 1960s and 1970s ushered in a growing public fascination with the paranormal, the story of Flight 19 resurfaced with renewed intensity. Numerous strange theories began to emerge. Some believed the squadron had been pulled into another dimension, while others claimed they had been abducted by extraterrestrials in what became known as the Bermuda Triangle, an infamous swath of ocean long associated with unexplained disappearances. Adding to the enigma was a haunting detail that surfaced years later. Several accounts suggested that Lieutenant Taylor had not wanted to fly that day. Just before takeoff, he had reportedly requested to be excused from the mission, but his request was denied. This revelation raised a chilling question. Had he sensed that something was about to go terribly wrong? Although many theories have been proposed over the years, no one has ever been able to determine what truly happened to Flight 19. No bodies were ever recovered. No wreckage was ever found. And in the minds of many Americans, especially those who lived through the war, Flight 19 represents more than just a disappearance. It stands as a symbol of something far greater, a place where science has yet to offer a definitive answer. The British soldier list at Auschwitz. For decades, the name Auschwitz has stood as a symbol of the ultimate brutality of the Nazi regime. This vast complex of concentration camps in Poland bore witness to the deaths of more than 1 million people, most of them Jewish. But in 2009, an unexpected discovery at one of Auschwitz's subcamps opened the door to an entirely different mystery: a handwritten list of 17 British soldiers, scrawled in pencil. The strange document was uncovered by Polish historian Dominik Synowiec. During routine preservation work at the Monowitz subcamp, he found the paper buried under dust and debris in an old bunker. The writing was in all capital letters, difficult to read, but unmistakably listed the names of 17 English-speaking soldiers. As soon as the discovery was made public, researchers began asking a cascade of questions. Who were these men? Why were their names found in the most infamous concentration camp operated by Nazi Germany? Some speculated that they were Jewish British prisoners of war who had been captured during European military campaigns and transferred to Auschwitz. Others theorized that these may have been British soldiers who had defected and later volunteered to serve in the Nazi military. Both explanations were worth considering, but neither had sufficient evidence to be confirmed. What made the mystery even more perplexing were the strange markings beside some of the names. A few entries were marked with symbols, but no one knew what those symbols meant. Did they indicate who was still alive, who had died, or perhaps a mission they were once involved in? Following the announcement of the discovery, Polish authorities reached out to the British Army archives in hopes of cross-referencing the names with official records to establish the soldiers' identities. However, as of 2010, no significant progress had been made. That fragile piece of paper raised more than just questions about the identities of 17 individuals. It challenged our understanding of wartime allegiances, human choices in the face of unimaginable conflict, and the many secrets that history has yet to fully unveil. History is not written solely by victories or defeats, but also by the mysteries that were never solved. If today's story sparked your curiosity or left you pondering, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our future journeys into the unknown. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.